she said something to the effect of, there is no attachment, a reality would be perceived as it, I guess, really is. In other words, I understood that to mean that because of attachment, we don't perceive realities as they really are. We perceive them as concepts. Even if we understood the nature, I would like, if John is with us, to comment more on that statement.
Are you here, John?
Not yet now.
Ah, not yet. Okay. Sarah, would you like to comment on it?
Yes. I think she's referring to clinging with wrong understanding. So when there's wrong understanding, then what appears is perceived as something or someone, not as it is. Because even when there's no wrong understanding, of course, there is still attachment.
Yeah, that's what
of course. And but of course, when there is attachment, when there's no understanding at all of what appears, but there's not necessarily wrong understanding.
Right, but I was wondering, even if a person who has correct understanding, they can still perceive concepts. For instance,
they still experience concepts, but not with any misunderstanding.
Yeah, that's true. Okay,
so we refer to Nina and refer to Carmen, but no misunderstanding. In truth, there is Nina or Carmen.
Right. That's what I was wondering, if when the way it was said, whether she also meant that, I guess, such a person who is enlightened, say, might have experienced satipatthana all the time, or at least most of the time, and would perceive something as it really is, as indirect understanding. Whereas
it's a little,
because of attachment, we tend to perceive it as a concept rather than direct understanding.
I think a little bit like her answer to Carmen last time, one has to look at different cheetahs, because even for the Arahat with no clinging, there cannot be satipatthana all the time, because there can only be direct understanding of realities at certain moments, not with Vipaka cheetahs, not with some Kiriya cheetahs, not with all Mahakiriya cheetahs. So one has to consider each reality. And for those who are enlightened but not yet arahats, of course, still clinging, like for the Sotapanna, still clinging to sensuous objects. And at those moments of attachment, no understanding, no satipatthana.
And Betty, even.
Is that Jonathan? Jonathan, are you saying something? I can't hear you. Jonathan?
Hello, can you hear me, Betty?
Ah, now I can hear you, yes. Okay.
Right, thanks. Betty, even if there were, as you put it, satipatthana all the time, which is just a hypothetical situation, of course, but there would still be the attending or the thinking of shape and form.
That's what I would think. Yes, exactly.
Right. And in a recent, actually, Nina recently posted on List a transcript from a discussion where this came up. And Ajahn said, the rapidity of the succession from moment to moment cannot be changed. It has to be exactly the same. And the idea of shape and form cannot be changed too. So she was talking about the the before and after enlightenment. And after enlightenment is the same as before in this respect, that the idea of shape and form, the thinking about shape and form, being an accumulated habit, it doesn't change. So.
Oh, I see. Because of accumulations, it doesn't change.
Well, and also, it's actually necessary. A person couldn't live in the world without thinking about shape and form.
Yes.
and knowing this person from that or this object from that. So it's just an integral part of existence in samsara.
Yeah.
I think it's mentioned in one of the suttas. The Buddha describes how the mind goes from one doorway to the other, like the monkey swinging through the forest from branch to branch. That is the nature of the mind, whether it's the mind of the worldling or the mind of the arahat. But the arahat, of course, has no wrong view, no attachment, but still there is thinking of shape and form.
Oh, yeah.
From one doorway to the other.
That's why I questioned what I had written here. I see it the way you see it, but the way it was written.
It often depends on the point that's being made.
Yeah.
And sometimes when one is making a point about one aspect, one doesn't necessarily mention all the other aspects as well. So I'm sure that it's to be understood that that's the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, thanks.
I have a point that I was considering.
So is Ajahn here now? Ajahn, are you here now? Not yet. Okay.
Go ahead, Nina.
Yes. I was so impressed with what Ajahn said, not knowing the future moment, because mostly we worry about the future. And she gave the example of Sariputta, who did not know that he would become enlightened after hearing Assaji about conditioned realities. And Ajahn said the role of confidence, when there is more confidence, one doesn't mind about the future moment. But we worry about health issues or difficult relationships, actually about the future and about really old age, sickness and death. It's daily life.
อะไรนะ
จะกินเย็นตาโฟไหม
ไม่
ไม่นะ
ท่านอ้วนจะกินให้สับให้ค่ะ
Yeah, he says that quite a lot. Boy, go food.
Shall I continue? Yes. It would help many people if Ajahn can elaborate a little on the confidence of not minding the future moment, only the present moment, because we all have problems about the future.
Are you here, Ajahn, yet?
Never mind. Yeah. I can't hear you, Sarah.
The point is that the more understanding there is of Dharma, the more understanding there is that there is just this moment, there is just what is appearing now. So the thinking and dwelling and obsessing about what will happen, what will come to me, is largely conditioned by clinging to the idea of self and someone, and not understanding, not having confidence that actually life is just at this very moment. And at this very moment, there are just conditioned dharmas So no one can make it anything different. We think we can control what will happen and how the future will go, but that's because there's not enough confidence in understanding the conditioned nature of life now. In truth, there isn't anyone, there isn't I, and there isn't my health issues. There are just different dharmas that are conditioned. So it's only through understanding that confidence grows.
And then we don't mind about what the future will bring. And I find that
I think it doesn't mean it's natural. There's going to be minding, there's going to be thinking, there's going to be worrying, because the clinging to self is so deeply embedded, and because not enough understanding has been accumulated. But even that thinking and that minding and that worry are conditioned dhammas, not self, arising by different conditions. So there can be understanding even at those moments of minding and thinking, that it is just accumulated like kusala at that moment, just different dhammas, not my minding, not my worry, not my future. And of course it's conditioned by the clinging to self.
it's just clinging to self, which always causes all the problems, really.
What will happen to me, and what will happen, and what about my health, and where will this go, and what about, like when we were talking about death, and Ajahn was saying, but is one worried about the next moment of hearing, the next moment of seeing? So actually tomorrow is like now, the future is like now, death is like now. So the more understanding, confidence there is right now of what appears, the more understanding there is that no one can change what will come, because what will come, each moment is conditioned, and there can be understanding anytime that these are just different dhammas, and the worry and the trying to control or change it doesn't help anything at all. But it's natural, it's like that there can be understanding anytime, but it's always back to this moment. The thinking is now, the worry is now.
It's good to be
Clinging
reminded.
is now.
It
Yes.
helps to be reminded.
Yes, it's helpful for us too, because we've had some issues during the week, some difficulties, and so it's good to remember that it is now. It's just hearing, just hears sound. Like you talk to the doctor, it's just sound, and the problem is the thinking and the worrying and the clinging and the story, which, like Betty said, not under the clinging, not understanding the truth of what is real at this very moment. That's all there is. So whatever the problem, whatever the difficulty, it comes back to understanding right now.
Your
And I
confidence,
think I saw a message. Yes.
your confidence, it helps so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
No one can make confidence arise, but when understanding is there, there is more confidence. It develops with the understanding that life is just at this moment, no one there at all. I think Ajahn is here now. So Ajahn.
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์ สวัสดีครับอาจารย์
สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์ครับ
สวัสดีค่ะอาจารย์
สวัสดีครับ
ครับสวัสดีค่ะท่านอาจารย์
We already discussed two topics. I don't know if Betty would like to repeat hers, or Nina would like to repeat hers.
It would be nice if Ajahn can help us and encourage us not to worry about the future, because there is no future. Really, there is only the present moment. But it is good, I find, to be reminded.
In truth, there is no one, but it's so very, very subtle that every moment there must be I see, I hear, and I think. That's why just learning to understand the truth, that's all, the only way. Otherwise, there must be the expectation or the idea of self, because now there is memory, but there as something something all the time. That's why from understanding firmly that actually what is there is conditioned and then on, that's all. That's all. So what would be next is unknown until it comes and be as now to be known. But if there's no understanding, there must be doubt and clinging and taking it for something all the time. That's right. Just listen to understand. That's all. That is the only way to let go. The clinging to that as something, even it's not I, it's something, still something. That's why listen to each word of the Buddha and consider the truth to be firm, understanding, and confident. When Buddha said, no thing, what does it mean? No thing. But there are, what is there? By conditions, no thing. So if there's not understanding of what is it, there must be something. But Buddha said no thing. That's why there should be more confidence of the truth, what is meant, no thing. And understanding that the way it appears is not no thing, but it's something. That's why it's not enough. Just to develop by understanding a little more, by considering this is a condition for not forgetting that it's now appearing. Otherwise, it's forgotten all the time. Just think about something, not what is there now. But no
And
one
the
can make
story, the something is really the story we cling to, not reality.
even it's not in word, it's there as shape and form. See, as sound, the sound of music without word, but word is different from when there's no word. But it's there as something and something and something all the time. In truth, nothing. So what Buddha meant is so very deep because it has to be moment of realization of the truth, one reality at a time, and that one is so short. So there's nothing together with that which is there appearing as the object of right understanding about it. There's only it. Now it's not no awareness of the truth. So how can there be a little more understanding of that? That it's that we are talking about. For example, it's seeing that we are talking about. It's hearing now, which we are talking about. It's hardness now, which we are talking about. So very natural to be known as no thing at all. Hardness is only hardness, and at the moment when it appears as an object, no other reality can be there together. That's what Buddha meant, no thing at all, nothing at all. Only that which is there appearing as the object, the experiencing and the object from moment to moment. Till then, because the truth cannot be changed. When it appears, it has to appear as it is. There's only one at a time. And what is meant by only one? It means that it must be quite different from this moment. Because this moment, there are so many things around. And when the right understanding develop enough, it let go the other object. So it pay attention, being aware of that object with understanding of the characteristic, which there is no one there at all. Otherwise, how can the someone arising and falling away? It has to be no one, but our reality, which appears and then disappear. Even right, sound disappear, thinking disappear, like or dislike disappear when it's there, so short and then gone. But now, no experiencing of such reality as it is, arising and falling away yet, but by learning to understand the way it is, it let go the clinging, which is so very deep rooted, to be just very little understanding from moment to moment. That's all. That's all. No disturbance at all. Nothing can disturb such understanding. It's just the way it is. Even right now, it depends on how much understanding of each reality as it is different from the other. For example, hardness now is not visible objects. It's not sound. It's hard. So there can be understanding of hardness, but now they seem together. But when there is the understanding that they cannot appear together at all, say they cannot appear together, fully meaning of the word, they do not appear together, just one object at a time to be known clearly and clearer about its appearing as nothing in it, only hardness, only gone now. It's the way to have moment of being aware of what is there, to be conditioned to arise. If there's no talking, no considering at all about what is there now, there cannot be any condition to be aware with direct understanding of that which is aware of.
And Nina, you mentioned the stories that we have about the future. And of course, there are stories about the present and the past also. And the problem is not so much thinking about the past, the present, or the future, but it's the clinging to or the worrying about the past, the present, or future. Because just keep in mind, there cannot be living in the world without thinking about the future. Obviously, when one goes shopping, one is thinking about the future. When one gets dressed, one is thinking about what is the plan for the day, or what the weather is going to be, and so on and so forth. So it's not so much that the thinking is about the future or the past, but it's the attachment or the dosa that worries that is to be eventually eradicated.
But the thinking is mostly with akusala, citta, with attachment or with aversion.
Yes, but thinking is not wrong. Thinking is not something to be eradicated. Thinking will always be there, as we were talking in the context of Betty's question, attention to shape and form. And it is a natural habit to think stories. And I suppose the enlightened being also thinks stories, no doubt, and or maybe not as extensive as the ones that we have, but I'm just suggesting that the problem is not thinking, but it's the attachment that underlies that, or the dose of the worry about the tendency to worry, the tendency to be attached, because when that is eventually eradicated, there will still be thinking about the future and the past, but not with the akusala jittas.
Yes, yes.
And as Ajahn has said, the answer is the awareness and understanding of realities as they are. And that's important to remember, because we may be inclined to think, I shouldn't think so much. There may be subtle ideas of trying to control one's behavior, one's behavior of body, speech, or mind, rather than to remember the importance of just understanding the true nature of what is appearing at the present moment.
So I think the point is what Sarah made. When we hear that don't mind the future, it just means to understand the thinking at that time. That's what is important, to understand whether thinking with kusala or kusala, is just understand the thinking.
Whatever Dharma rises, it's now. So no matter whether it's kusala or akusala or seeing or hearing, it's just Dharma. And there can be understanding anytime and it's gone instantly. So yes, it's not a matter of trying to change or trying to have less akusala or trying to have more goodness, but just understand life as it is at this moment. However it's conditioned, whatever the accumulation, whatever the tendency. For some people, there's a lot of worry about this or that. Well, it's just conditioned like that, but there can be understanding anytime that that's life, the moment of worry, the moment of thinking, the moment of seeing, just as it is.
Everyone thinks all the time, non-stop, at different levels too. So there may be several stories going on, some about the past, some about the future, some about the present. That is the nature of the mind, just to be constantly thinking about what is being experienced through the sense doors, and not only that, but things that can be remembered or conceptualized.
Betty, did you want to bring your point up again, or is that finished? We can't hear you, Betty. We can't hear you. Unmute.
I'm sorry about that. I thought I had it unmuted. Okay. If no attachment, a reality would be perceived as it is. So that it's the way that was said, I understood it as being if a person has no attachments, then the reality could be perceived as it is. Or it could mean yeah, that's the way I understood that. So so when there's attachment, it blocks perceiving reality as it really is. But yet, with different levels of understanding to grow, there can be direct experience of reality, when the conditions are there. But I would like, John had said before that, she said, when no understanding nimitta as an object of attachment, because attachment takes the reality for something. And then she said, what I just quote, if no attachment, reality would be perceived as it is. So I wanted to clarify what she meant. It is because of attachment that there are concepts. That's what I understood the quote to mean. However, as John was saying before, the Buddha has to live with concepts. He recognizes this person, he recognizes so-and-so and so-and-so. He recognizes his followers, he recognizes things, he talks in terms of concepts when he's talking to his followers. So so it's not like they're not seeing concepts, but they are understanding, as we said later, after that, as John said, they're understanding, they're perceiving the concept, but they're perceiving it with understanding. But I would like John to comment on that. When in other words, Yeah, wait a minute. If there's no attachment, the reality would be perceived as it is, as it really is.
At moment of understanding, can there be attachment?
Sorry, say that again. If they're at a moment of understanding,
Can there be attachment?
not at that moment of understanding.
That's why now, is there any understanding?
Right now,
If not, there must be attachment, unknown attachment.
I
So,
see.
so
Okay, so if any moment arises and there's no understanding, there's automatically attachment.
usually more moments of attachment rather than the other moment of it, dosa or vipaka, because attachment cannot arise together with vipaka, akusala vipaka, or any vipaka, because akusala is akusala and vipaka is vipaka. That's why so many unknown reality, but Buddha taught about everything to be understood. That's why the point is that Buddha showed or pointed out that lots so great number, or we can count the akusala as avijja, no understanding of that which is now appearing. That's why from hearing and understanding what he meant about this moment, that there must be that which is not known as it is. And Buddha taught everything to develop the understanding of that, so that there cannot be attachment to that object because of not much ignorance as before. See? As well as a lot of avijja at any time of anything, it's there hinder the truth, because attachment covers up, it's something so pleasant to be attached to. That's right. Before there can be no attachment to anything, there should be the understanding of the truth, so that it can let go the attachment stage by stage. Attachment to what is most, the self, the seeing, the hearing, the sanya, the vedana, and sankhara khanda, and everything. That's right. Learn to understand the truth of each reality. At that moment, it let go ignorance and wrong understanding of that particular object, one by one, little by little. That's right, just hearing the truth to understand. And panya, right understanding, works its way to let go, to have less attachment and so on, little by little, stage by stage, unknown, because it's not I. That's right, just to learn to understand that which hasn't been understood before hearing the teachings. And at moment of hearing, considering carefully whether it's true or not to change, not to try to do anything, because the five khandhas are the object of attachment and wrong understanding. So very great and very firm. That's why before it can be let go of the ignorance and attachment to that very moment, it has to be right understanding only, which can let go the ignorance and clinging little by little now, not thinking how much letting go it's there from hearing such and such. Impossible. No one can expect anything because it's not known. It's the function of panya and other wholesome sankhara khanda to develop unknowingly. Until then, at any time when direct awareness is there, because of the understanding, the intellectual truth of what is there, little by little, to condition moment unexpectedly of awareness, direct awareness and understanding what is there now when there's direct understanding, because there's understanding of the truth as it is. For example, there is hardness now appearing. What about panya? See how much is that of panya? What level of understanding? It's there when it's there. For example, when there's no understanding, at moment of touching, no understanding. But when there is some understanding firm enough to condition moment of direct understanding of the hardness as before, but before hearing the teachings, before understanding it, before it's firm conditioned, there cannot be that moment. But when that moment has a reason, there must be conditions to begin to understand the truth that it's there. And at that moment, nothing can be the object, only hardens itself. Just one reality at a time, beginning to be attention, to have attention on that object, little by little. And when it's fully developed, it appears as only one at a time. Otherwise, how can there be great understanding or greater understanding than before about that object as no thing in it, no arm, no leg, no chair, no flower at all, only that which is hard. And that is the absolute truth because it has its characteristic that whenever it arises, it has to be only that and then follow it instantly because condition the arising of what is there, and then after it has arisen, it falls away, unknown all the time. That's why Panya from hearing again and again, conditioned right understanding. That's why what we live for, not to try to do anything, but Panya develops at each moment of understanding what is there taught or talked about just right now to be object of considering whether it's true or not. Is it true? What is there can appear only just one at a time. But why there are so many things around? Because the succession of the arising and falling away so very rapidly. See, as soon as one opens up one's eye, so many things around. If that which is seen not impinge on the eye sense, how can they be seeing? See, but they work by conditions, by themselves. No one can arrange, or no one has to arrange for anything to arise. Impossible to understand it, anothernness of everything, beginning to have more confidence of it. That's the function of all dharmas in this life, directly and right or correctly. Otherwise, it's wrong all the time. Just try to think hard about it. Just try to control it. Just try to not experience the nimitta or the concept of anything. But that is impossible. How can anyone live without understanding what is there as concept? Plates and shoes and so on. And the wise one can use the right word for each one to be known. That's why we have language to represent what is there to be known. But the truth is known, or it can be known. It can be developed from hearing and considering and live naturally until death and then start again, begin again. It depends on whether there are conditions to hear again and think again or not. That's why it works. Or
เช็ดตัวของท่านอ้วนผืนไหนคะผ้าเช็ดตัวผ้า
just like now, see what is there, whether we talking about it or not, whether it can be object of understanding from hearing or not, whether it is directly aware of or not, or by conditions. Just learn to understand the truth from what Buddha taught, because he's the enlightened one. And now it's the path leading to understand what is there as he had enlightened. So very natural, very common. Just understanding and no understanding, or anatta, different realities. by different conditions. What is heard, what is touched, what is thought about. That's why what is there can be talked about to understand its truth, little by little. That's what life is, to understand the benefit or the precious of understanding the truth. So listen and consider it, and consider the truth, to understand it as it is. That's the way Dhamma develops, no one trying to do anything. All depends on right understanding or wrong understanding. When it's wrong, it's so very subtle too. The sila pata pramasa, see, any moment of wrong thinking, wrong awareness, the wrong path, wrong understanding. Until Panya understand it, it cannot arise as usual, as much as usual, as much as before, little by little. Even now, what is that seen? See, is it known more than just a moment ago, or yesterday, or day before? To be truthful, exactly the same, because the development of right understanding does not appear as something so great instantly. But without understanding of this moment, there cannot be more understanding later, until the path develop on to the end, the enlightenment, the truth of what is there now. And it has to be only when it appears. To understand what is there is seeing has to be moment of seeing. When it's not moment of seeing, how can be the understanding of seeing and that which is seen? And no one can direct right awareness and right thinking of that which is seen to arise now or then, or by conditions, the understanding a little more, unknown how much. It's like holding the knife's handle, who knows how much it wear away. But it's not good
I'm
for
sorry.
the teachings at all.
Ajahn, may I ask a question?
Please.
Ajahn, there is much, you frequently mention how everything arises and falls away so rapidly. And at a conventional level, I think we can only have a very gross idea of what that means in terms of what changes around us. But in an absolute sense, what does the perception of impermanence actually mean?
For example, right now, at moment of seeing, just right now, can they be hearing? They seem to be there together at moment of hearing. There is still seeing. It doesn't mean that at moment of hearing nothing arises right now, only hearing and sound. But there is also seeing and visual object around, but they cannot arise together. for sure. That's why it proves the truth that is it wrong or right understanding of the truth of each one? Because without its arising, there cannot be anything at all. For example, if seeing does not arise, how can there be that which is now appearing as object of seeing? So what meant arising and falling away, it's just right now unknown, because what is seen is there already. What about the moment of arising and falling away because other object appears like sound or hardness? When we touch something too at moment of seeing and hearing, see? So the truth has to be the truth. That's why one lives in darkness, so very dark, not understand the truth, the absolute truth of what is there now as it is. Just take everything for this or that all the time, for me too. At moment of seeing, hearing, remembering, thinking, liking, all are something from birth to death, from life to life. But what is the truth, the absolute truth, the Ariya truth, Ariya Satya, noble truth? That's the way to begin to understand the truth and to have more confidence on the truth. That's why the Parami, Satya Parami is so very important from the very beginning to the end, because the truth cannot be changed at all, no matter what we think about it. For now, who understand or who knows the lopa, attachment, see, at moment of talking, what is the object? Is there any understanding of that object? If not, it's just like before hearing the truth. Just like what is there as before as something, but in truth, beginning to develop, to implant the understanding of what is there as no one and no thing. It's there by conditions and then gone unknowingly all the time. But there can be a moment of developing the understanding of the truth. And that moment it let go, wrong understanding and attachment to that as something as before, little by little. Before, everything in life is the object of understanding of its knows as no one and no thing, the absolute truth. Because why is not me? Why is no one? Why is no thing? Because it's not there anymore. What was there yesterday is not what is now. And it cannot be tomorrow to just now and then gone. This is the absolute truth. Even it's hidden so very deeply, but it can be known or learned or studied or developed to know the truth so very little at a time. But this is the way. That's why after his enlightenment, Buddha said, all dhammas are anatta. So very, very subtle, very, very difficult to understand, but it could be understood. That's why this moment of understanding just what is there is not permanent. This is true, and it begins to be implanted, to be enrooted, to understand the truth, because the truth cannot be changed at all, no matter now or tomorrow or after that, at all, any moment, any day. The truth is so very deep and hidden all the time because of attachment and ignorance. So the enlightenment is the moment of understanding from now and carry on, develop on, and on and on, and clearer to let go the idea of self. So this life is just live to understand the truth. That's all. No expectation when I will let go the idea of self, when I will have more understanding. That is only thinking, not the development of understanding. That's why the development of understanding is so very natural, because what is now appearing is so natural. That's the way that it can be known as it is, as natural as it is. No one can twist it to change it, to direct it to be different from now, because it's completely gone. Its lifespan is so very short, so very short. That's why what appears is only the nimitta of a characteristic, a reality. For example, seeing right now, not hearing. So we can understand what seeing is right now. That which experiences what is seen, which now appears. That's all. On and on and on and on and on, until there can be the understanding of the difference between that which experience and that which is the object of experience at that very moment. Because even we use the word it experiences, but it is not known at all. That it cannot be smell, it cannot be sound, it cannot be anything at all. It cannot be whatever we used to think that it is seeing. But the truth is that even that which sees, which arises to see, is known as it's that which sees now. But that does not show up. How is it? For example, just wake up. No seeing, no hearing, no thinking. What is that? Experiencing. Because at that moment, the object of it does not show up as the object, but it's that being, Bhava, is there. See, to begin to understand what is meant by that which experiences. Because at that moment, it experiences. But the object of that which experiences is not the object of understanding, the characteristic of that which experiences. This is just to be known little by little until it's there. So it's direct awareness with direct understanding of that. It shows up from the development of understanding of it little by little, little by little. So that moment is the object of understanding. Just like hardness now. It can be object of ignorance, attachment, or it is the object of understanding. Even it's just hard. The hardness is there. It cannot be changed, but it depends on the level of understanding it. Now, it does not appear as it is, as nothing around at all, because it's only hard. It's just thinking about hardness. Before the moment when hardness, only hardness is there to be known. What is meant by that which is hard, that cannot experience an object, different from that which experiences it. Just like any time in life, from life to life, just like now. Last life seeing, this life seeing, next life seeing, seeing.
And perception of impermanence may, of course, it will depend on the context, but in the absolute sense, it's going to mean perception of the impermanence of conditioned realities. In other words, understanding of the impermanence of conditioned realities, and the ultimate absolute degree of that will be what you mentioned is the rise and fall of individual realities. But I think that perception begins to develop at a much earlier stage because the direct experience of rise and fall of individual conditioned realities must be an extremely high level of development of understanding. But even at a more beginning level, it can be appreciated that realities themselves do not last for more than a short period of time, even if they're not seen as momentary, and so on. So just the awareness and understanding that is developed is the beginning of that perception.
And it's I think I took well, partly what Ajahn was saying is that it's the perception, the appreciation of the rapid succession of realities appearing that supports the concept of impermanence, that impermanence, the actual rising and falling away, well, I'm not even sure whether that can be experienced, whether there is a reality that represents that, but that it's almost like that the impermanent nature of all things is inferred rather than directly experienced. Is that?
Well, I think it's said in the text that the notion of continuity is abandoned when the understanding of the impermanence of conditioned realities is developed.
Right. Right.
Otherwise,
okay.
yeah, we take them for being continuous.
Yes. Yes.
But whether something can be continuous and impermanent, I'm not sure. It seems to me it's possible that the notion of not being permanent can be there well before individual dhammas, or the arising and falling of individual dhammas is known.
And it can be a very useful consideration because it seems that it has the potential, the capacity to weaken, diminish the attachment to people and things, etc. Because I mean, it's one thing for us to say, oh yes, we know we're all going to die, and etc., etc. But it's a different order of understanding, to think in terms of the moment to moment falling away of what is experienced.
Yes, that's right. And in fact, there can be both. The accumulated tendency for both. There can be both, some developed understanding of the momentary nature, maybe at intellectual level, we'll say, and at the same time, taking things for being continuous at other moments.
Thank you.
Ajahn Cup, you were talking a moment ago, or a little while ago, actually, earlier on, and when you started to talk today about Silabbata Paramasa. Now, I'd like to try and identify that it's a samyojana, it's a yoke. Now, it's not a Chaitasika. It's obviously relates to attachment. But perhaps what I'd like you to talk a little bit about is, because when we know the other samyojanas like ditti or doubt, they seem reasonably clear. They're probably not, but they probably, they seem clearer to me. Whereas silabbata paramasa is a type of attachment. How is it different? Say, for example, how can we differentiate that? How can you differentiate it, or how can you distinguish it more clearly from subtle types of clinging? How is subtle types of clinging different from silabbata paramasa, or are they quite similar?
When there are realities appearing together just like now, see, and is there any intention just to understand only one at a time, or to have a moment of being aware? To be aware is not just thinking or understanding intellectually about that which appears, but it is the awareness of that object. Is there any intention try to develop awareness?
Oh, okay, that's a little bit clearer. So you're saying if there's any intention, that's probably a good guide that there is Silabbata Paramasa. Is that what you were saying, Tanajan?
Yes, that's why it has to be known that it's wrong to try or even to think of doing this or that. And even where Panya develops, it's still there. That's why only Sota Patimakha moment can eradicate the wrong view, including the Sila Patapramasa. Because even when an object appears, is there after that an intention just to understand that better? See?
So,
because
yeah, that's much clearer, Tanajan. So when there's any sort of idea of wanting to understand even or trying or any of these ideas of wanting to get there quicker or do it faster or whatever, all these are different types of Silabbata Paramasa.
that's why the path is so very, very subtle. Otherwise, it will not be the Four Noble Truths, one of the Four Noble Truths, the last one, which is the first one too. But it can be realized after it has attained the goal, the destination, that because of this, it led to realize the truth. As long as there is Silapatapamrasa, even just very little, it hinders the progress, the firm understanding. Just let go, just let go. Not by intention. At moment of understanding deeper and deeper.
So Silabbata Paramasa can be very subtle also.
Otherwise, it cannot be a moment of enlightenment, the truth, as long as there is still Silapatapamrasa.
Yeah, that's much clearer. Thank you very much, Tanajan.
So we talk about reality just stage by stage, from not understanding any word of the Buddha to understand each word means whatever is there now to be understood. And that can be developed to the moment of enlighten the truth of what is there. But without any understanding, it's impossible to let go of anything because it's so very deeply rooted, even right now, or at any stage of Panya, until the stage of Sotapatimaka, the end of clinging to the object with wrong understanding, never to arise again in samsara. So what has to be learned is what is there from this moment, day by day, today, and on and on. And each moment of understanding is the path leading to understanding the truth, the Four Noble Truths right now. So it cannot be missed or lacked at all, even just a moment. It conditions.
So this, I was just, yeah, please continue, Tanajan. I was just going to say then, so this aspect of Silabbata Paramasa, which as you're indicating to me, Tanajan, is very subtle. It seems to me this aspect of Silabbata Paramasa is not very well understood within the teachings.
Because just seeing some events or in one just do this and that, which is wrong, one can see that it's wrong. Pay respect to the banana trees or anything, see, it's wrong. But to understand what is wrong, even at moment when Panya is there, as long as it's not developed to the degree that it can let go, it's there. For Panya to understand it, and that Panya let go that which is not object yet, until that becomes the object.
So we can all...
And it doesn't have to be subtle either. It refers to any kind of bodily action or speech that is also motivated by a wrong view of the way things are. So one thinks that by paying respect to the Buddha image, for example, as a ritual when one goes past in the bus, is some kind of wholesomeness, and that would be an example of Silabbata Paramasa.
Oh yeah, yeah. Thanks, Jonathan. That's a little bit clearer to me. It seems to me, though, still that in the development of the path, that there will be moments. Well, there will be times when there is both. There is Silabbata, as well as there can be moments of understanding, even of that kind of wrong practice, if we want to translate it like that. But it seems to me that there will be, it'll probably be, can we say, Tanajan, that there will be, before Sota Patimagga, there will be probably many moments of Silabbata Paramasa, even when there's understanding. Could we say that? Even when there is understanding, some reasonable intellectual understanding of the path, there is probably going to be quite a bit of Silabbata Paramasa.
What can eradicate Silabbata Paramasa?
Well, it's usually attachment to a certain way of behaving that you feel that conduces to the path, or that leads to a better understanding. But or like the example that Jonathan gave, that some people have of doing perhaps some sort of, behavioral pattern when they go past in a bus, past the different temples in Thailand or whatever, something like that, and they may think it's wholesome. That's perhaps one, that seems to me quite a clear example, although there may be at those moments some genuine understanding, maybe, probably not, but perhaps so.
But the question is, what can eradicate Silabbata Paramasa? Absolutely.
Well, it's only Panya Tanajan develop.
At that very moment of paying respect, at moment of passing the temple or whatever, who knows that at moment it is kusala or akusala?
Yeah, we don't know that. And there can be moments of kusala, say, saddha, possibly arising. But amongst that, even a lot of attachment also, possibly or probably.
Okay, paying respect to the Buddha by manners, different ways of showing respect, right? Is that Silabbata Paramasa?
No, Tanajan, not necessarily.
No, not at all. But when there is intention, the purpose to do that for something expected, is that not Silabbata Paramasa?
Yeah, I agree, Tanajan.
It is Silabbata Paramasa because of expectation. See, that is because it doesn't lead to understand the truth of what is there.
When you say expectation, Tanajan, what can you tell me more about that? What do you mean by that when you talk about expectation?
Enlightenment by paying respect.
Okay, yeah.
People think and wish and ask for something at moment of paying respect. Is that not Silabbata Paramasa?
Or it could be also belief. So one has been told that it's wholesome to pay respect to the Buddha image. So every time the bus goes past a Buddha image, one wise as a matter of course. That would, I think, must also be Silabbata Paramasa.
Oh yes, certainly. Yeah, certainly, I agree with that. And you said it's a certain habit pattern that some people have sometimes, and they think that that's kusala, whereas it usually is not. That's clearer. It's just this, when we hear about Silabbata Paramasa being one of the Sangyojanas, when I first heard it, when I first came across the Dhamma and this life, I used to think it was just kind of behavior that's obviously not conducive to understanding, like in the Buddha's time when we have those people who behave like dogs or they behave like different animals, and they thought that would take them to the realization of deeper truths. But the Buddha made it quite clear that those kind of behaviors would not conduce to any level of understanding. So but Tanajan, you're saying that it's anything with relates to an expectation or in the development of the path. So it's attachment that can be quite gross, like as Jonathan said, and also any sort of subtle behavior really that involves expectation or in any way believes that this will help me get to the other side. Any sort of behavior that's not in accordance really with the Dhamma. It's, perhaps I'll make that a little bit, about that.
While there's wrong view of self, there's bound to be Silabbata Paramasa, like even thinking that if one stops worry in some way, then that will be conducive to the path, or if it's one goes on a retreat, or even if one listens to a jhana all day, that will be the way. So it can be any time in daily life conditioned by the idea of self, by the idea of controlling life or doing something to get a result. Like last week when we talked about jhana, there's so many examples in the text about those who have the idea of attaining jhana as being the way or being the path, for example. So whenever there's the clinging to self, there has to be Silabbata Paramasa. Even trying not to have attachment right now to what is heard or what is said, Silabbata Paramasa. Trying to catch the words Ajahn said, trying to understand it, Silabbata Paramasa, because there is the idea of doing something or a special way, not just understanding naturally what is conditioned at this moment, whatever it is, whether it's ignorance or dosa or jhana or any reality.
Yeah, sure. Although on that point though, Sarah, I think that wanting to understand more clearly a conceptual aspect of Dhamma may not necessarily, although I understand it certainly could be Silabbata Paramasa, but it may not be, because it may be, I don't see it. May just be clinging,
just attachment, just wanting to understand, wishing to understand. But when it's the idea that by wanting or by trying that this is the way, that is Silabbata Paramasa, because it's the wrong understanding that that's the way.
Yes, certainly, I'd agree with that. I also, because as you've kind of alluded to, that there can be kusala chanda, and wanting to have a clearer understanding, although there's bound to be some attachment there, I can accept that. It's part of the journey in a way, cannot be avoided. However, I can certainly see that there can be moments of Silabbata also.
Wanting to understand is different from understanding the value or having an interest because of seeing the value. So usually the wanting or the wishing is the clinging, different from the wholesome interest in understanding more about the truth of life.
That's a good point, Sarah. and I can imagine that those moments could be, alternating at different moments. So the moments, as you've indicated, of sila pitta, and then other moments when there is wiser attention.
And it's life now, moments of kusala interest, moments of wanting, moments of trying with subtle sila bhatta paramasa, or even not so subtle as Jonathan mentioned, moments of wrong practice, trying to catch, trying to do something. It can come in any time, daily life.
Yeah, the aspect of practice, in that sense of some sort of ritual that somebody does, that seems clearer to me. But however, as Tanajan and yourself also are pointing out, that it can be very subtle. And I guess ultimately that's something that Panya can get to know better, and that will only know gradually over time.
Hearing about seeing and trying to be aware of seeing, that is a wrong practice, sila bhatta paramasa at that moment. So it's kind of obvious when we hear about someone going to the meditation center and close their eyes and concentrating on breath, that it's wrong practice. But it can be now, even just trying to capture reality for a moment.
Yes, certainly. Yeah, it is.
Any
So
kind
it
of
certainly can be very
practice.
subtle. Mhm.
Sarah, I was just looking up the correct spelling of Sila Bhatta Paramasa, and I came across this in the Buddhist dictionary. It said that it disappears on attaining stream entry. Is that true?
It's true, because when there's no more wrong view of self, when all the wrong idea of self is eradicated, all other kinds of wrong view and all wrong practices are eradicated too. So without the idea of self, doing something or getting a result or stopping worrying or being able to control the future, then no more sila bhatta paramasa. So it's wrong view is the key. With no more wrong view, no more any kind of wrong practice at all.
And I'd just like to add, because it may be something that Sundara was wondering about, that Silabhata Paramasa is an aspect of wrong view, even though in some classifications it mentions Ditti and Silabhata Paramasa separately. But if you read the explanation of those things, it clarifies. I think is in one classification, I forget what it is, it's mentioned wrong view and Silabhata Paramasa and something else, which is another aspect of wrong view. But just because they're mentioned separately doesn't mean they're mutually exclusive.
The upadanas.
It makes sense. Then, Tanajan, I wonder why then, and that makes sense to me, that Silabhata Paramasa is linked strongly with wrong view, that when, as Sarah has pointed out, when there is no wrong view, then there will not be any Silabhata Paramasa. Why do we have that? It begs the question for me, why do we have this idea? It's a little bit clearer as I begin to ask it, but why do we have this idea of Silabhata Paramasa? Because if it's eradicated at Sotapati Magga, and then of course the idea of wrong view is also eradicated, also doubt is eradicated. Why is it separate? It's not a Chaitasika, although we could say it relates to Lobha. Why is it there as one of the Samyojanas? What do you think on that, please?
Can't hear you, Ajahn.
Sorry, I didn't get on the. For example, the one who hasn't heard about the truth at all, can they do anything, try to understand, or try to reach the goal, if the eradication of akusala and ignorance? They have just wrong understanding, unknown, because they have any wrong understanding. But at moment of I, it's wrong, but they don't know that that is wrong understanding. And who has heard about the teachings at all? It seems like they don't have any wrong, even thinking or doing anything, but wrong understanding of the self or something is there. See? That's why even the person who hasn't heard about the teaching at all, it doesn't mean that there must be wrong understanding at any time of akusala. That's why Buddha pointed out at what moment there is wrong understanding or the Silapata Pramasa, wrong practice. Right? Or no wrong practice, no wrong understanding at moment. There is only lopa attachment to sensuous object or other thing, no thinking about what is there, what is the truth, what is not the truth. They don't mind at all at that moment. But there must be attachment and ignorance, unknown. They don't know what is what at all. That's why each one is different. Because wrong view can lead to any kind of doing something wrongly.
So we can say then that really that the Buddha talked about Silabbata Paramasa to help people get a better understanding of what the path really is. Because in the beginning, people will have all sorts of ideas, and some of it can be much of it, or at least some of it can be very unhelpful. So it just points to behaviors that are not helpful in the development of the path.
Usually about the path.
When you say usually, what do you mean by that, Ajahn? Wouldn't that be always?
Because there is no wrong understanding every moment.
No, okay, I understand, Cup.
So the Silapata Pramasa concerns the way one practices by having such idea that that can lead to what the goal for them. So they practice or do just for that.
Oh.
Would also be like doing nothing will is the way to follow the path. There still be Silabhata Paramasa, even not doing anything. Instead of doing some behavior, not having any kind of behavior at all. Would that still be Silabhata Paramasa? I'm not sure if I made myself clear.
Because it's still the idea of practice of doing something, of I doing nothing in order to develop the path or in order to have more awareness. So stop my work, stop my household duties, just sit and do nothing, stare into space. It's Silabhata Paramasa. Or some people might think when reading the book, there mustn't be any telephone interruption, or there mustn't be any inconvenience at all. Silabhata Paramasa, thinking it will disturb the development of awareness. The opposite of understanding the truth about life at any time, any moment. Or someone might think, like Nina mentioned, Sariputta hearing the words of Assaji, someone might think if they just keep repeating the words or keep hearing about the example or behaving like Sariputta or behaving like the Buddha, that will be the way. Again, Silabhata Paramasa.
And just going back to something I was mentioning earlier, it's the upadanas I was thinking of. There are 4 upadanas. The first is clinging to sense pleasures, and the other 3, Dittupadana, clinging to wrong views, Silabhatupadana, clinging to rites and rituals, and Attavadupadana, clinging to a doctrine of self. So those 3 are all aspects of wrong view, which is encompassed by the first of them. So reading it, one may get the impression that they are mutually exclusive, but they're not.
No, okay.
So, and the same thing is found in, for example, the fetters, which includes wrong views and adherence to rites and rituals.
Yeah, some yojin.
Yeah, the samyojins, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm.
Different kinds of wrong view. Whatever kind of wrong view or whatever kind of wrong practice, it all comes back to the clinging to self, Sakkaya Ditthi. Without Sakkaya Ditthi, no other kind of wrong views or wrong practice at all.
Mm.
Please excuse me. If no one has a question just now, I have a spontaneous question for John. And it's with attachment, John. There is suffering, the pain, and it's something that I have aversion to experience, and yet it is experienced and then it passes, and sometimes it's quite strong. And then there is also this I've heard commented before about the fear or the terror. There's this idea of how attachment binds me to rebirth. And I simply wanted to hear again. I love to hear about the fear or the terror, the danger of this, of rebirth. Tanajan, please.
It has to be Panya, which understands the danger of the arising and falling away of what is there now. If not, it's I again, who just don't want to be born again. It's I who do not want to be born, but it's not the Panya which sees the danger of no matter the moment of arising and falling away is now so very dangerous because no one can stop. It is endless. Keep on from now falling away, condition the next moment to arise and fall away, and the falling away of this one condition the next moment to arise. I say that's why it's the way it is. Even Buddha cannot change. No one cannot change at all. Just to learn to understand the truth that actually whatever is there, it's not there anymore. No matter it's so very painful. What about it? Is there still now? Who makes it go away? Impossible. That's the way it is. But without understanding, it's always I, it's always me. But actually, where is that which you take for me or I? Not there now at all. And when it's not now, this moment, what about next moment? It arises and fallen away instantly. Exactly the same. So the clinging to that and take it from me is always there when there is no understanding of the truth that is not there even right now. No matter it's so pleasant or so very unpleasant, if it's not directly experienced yet, it is still I who just don't want to be born again. But that is not strong enough because there must be conditions to being born again, not understanding again. That's why understanding from this moment to say that it is impossible to stop when there are conditions for anything to arise. It's there, right, seeing right now. Never go away. Even there is thinking or hearing or hardness of whatever appears, there is seeing. It depends on whether at that moment only one reality appears as it just arises and falls away. Otherwise, there must be the idea of something there all the time. Can you stop seeing right now? Not to arise again? Even you don't want to have it at all. Just wanting or do not want at all doesn't make the way you like or the way it should be as you think or try to have it that way. Because all are realities. There are conditions for whatever arises now to arise as it is only by conditions. That's why understanding this, no trying to stop, no thought of stopping it, but to understand the truth of it. As in truth, there is no more what we take for I, because it's gone. Everything from now and now and now, gone and gone and gone and gone. Nothing is there permanent at all. So even the birth is moment of arising and falling away. If it is not directly experienced, how can there be the danger of seeing it as it's useless? What for when it's not anyone? It's like the fire somewhere. Just be there and then gone. It doesn't hurt anyone because it doesn't belong to anyone. That's why when there is the idea of I and mine, it hurts unknowingly when time comes. That's why just the idea, don't want to be born again. But in truth, what is that at the very moment? Attachment, lopa, clinging to that idea as it's not good. So it shouldn't be again. But actually it's so dangerous because it harms and hurts from the moment of birth on and on and on. That's why it has to be panya, which can directly understand the truth of each one as not the same one, as each one is conditioned to arise to be just that and then gone. And only once is not enough at all. Even many moments of understanding intellectually about now, there's no me, it's gone already. But as long as it does show up as it is, how can there be such great feeling of seeing the danger of what for just arises and falls away? And to be the object of attachment and sorrow when then one does not get what one wants at all. Something like that all the time from day to day, just thinking, sometimes thinking of not good to be born again, and sometimes enjoying this or that by conditions, not understanding what is that which is different from the other. Seeing is not hearing, it's not thinking who conditions such moment to arise. No one at all. Even right now, who knows what would be next moment? Impossible. Even it's there already, no one knows the truth. That's why the truth is hidden, because of ignorance and attachment. That's why when there is the development of understanding from hearing, no one can make anything to arise. So what is that which appears? It has a reason by its proper condition just to arise, to be that only then and then following instantly. And since it's so true, it can be directly experienced the truth to have more confidence of the word that Buddha taught from his enlightenment, to understand that it can be directly understood and directly experienced. Otherwise, that which has accumulated quite a long, long time cannot be let go at all. But from hearing, whatever is there is conditioned, and it's not there forever, it's gone instantly. Can conditioned moment beginning to understand one reality at a time. Because no matter we're talking about seeing or hearing or sound or smell, it's not directly experienced. So how can it shows up the moment when it arises and falls away? Because there's no direct awareness and understanding of even anyone now at all. So what now arises and falls away is not known. So it only thinking about the way it is, and it can lead to the idea of I don't want to be born again. But that is only thinking, because what things, see, without conditions, can it arise? No one knows what would be the next thought at all, by conditions, by sanya, by vitaka, and by whatever Buddha taught about, to begin to understand this moment, as there are so many conditions for even what is there to arise. And are you tired of seeing right now?
No, I always love to see. I cling to it. And then there is the passing away, or there is the pain and the suffering, and then the aversion to feeling that. But then there is also that this hurts, and just let it fall. It just falls away. But then myriads of moments later, attachment. This is wonderful. I want it to continue. But then no, it cannot. It must pass away because there is something else that should be done or that is desired to do. So I want to thank you, Ajahn. Thank you.
I appreciate your understanding, but that is not enough, because it has to be understanding more about what is there. For example, there can be the danger of the wrong speech, wrong deeds, but what about the clinging to the moment of doing so as it's not self? See, that's why it is there so close, because without this, which we take for self, nothing can appear at all. No world if there is no self, no anything to arise and experience. So what we take for self is not the self, because it just arises by conditions and it's gone. And where's the self? Impossible, because completely gone. And it has to be from that which has been taken for I quite a long, long time ago, to be known as what it is. For example now, sanya marks and remembers at moment of thinking. Without sanya, there cannot be thinking about that at all. See, that's why whatever is taken for I, if it hasn't been thoroughly known completely, absolutely, it's impossible to let go the idea of self. That's why usually before hearing the teachings, one thinks what one knows the other so well, what he or she is thinking, what is done, wholesome or unwholesome. But what about the moment thinking about that? See, it's still I thinking about the other. But if there's that which is taken for I at all, The truth is the truth. So no more wrong understanding about that which is taken for I as before. That's why it has to be step by step, word by word, stage by stage of understanding what is said. Never enough until it appears or show up as it is. To be certain that it is as what we have studied, as what we have learned, or what we have considered many moments in life until it's there, appearing as the object of understanding of that very level, no doubt about. It's only that, not the other reality. And when it's there, it's gone. That's why closer to the moment of each one to understand the truth of it. Otherwise, it's not clear comprehension of any reality right now at all. Just only thinking about its truth. But that is the beginning to understand that that is not enough. Because we heard about what is there is conditioned to arise and then fall away. It does not show up as it is yet, but it can one day, but not to ignorance, but to panya, which let go the idea of self from what is there, little by little, and be aware of one object, and at that moment when it's there, by conditions. So beginning to have more and more firm confidence of the truth that there is no one and there cannot be anyone who can do anything because there must be proper conditions for whatever arises. Only that, from life to life. So just live to understand the truth. And no matter it is wholesome or unwholesome, they are true. So true. When it's there, it cannot be changed. It is wholesome, so it cannot be unwholesome. When it's unwholesome, it cannot change to be wholesome because it just arises and falls away instantly before anyone can do. Before it can be changed because it cannot be changed at all. So very rapidly from moment to moment, right now, no matter when, anywhere, anytime. This is the firm understanding of no self, little by little. And the proof is the moment when direct understanding with direct awareness is there of an object only. Even in the beginning, it's not clear enough yet, but it is a moment of understanding the difference between thinking about it, hearing about it, consider it, to the moment when it's just there, directly show up. But before that, it has to be direct awareness with understanding. That's why we use the word satipatthana.
Ajahn, Chitta and Chetasika are taken for self. And each moment has, each reality has a characteristic. So I can have faith. I can have faith in that panya can arise unbidden, and there can be understanding of attachment.
Until panya is known as not me or I at all.
Mm. Mm. Yes.
So just develop understanding from hearing and considering to understand that no me at all, no matter seeing, hearing, thinking, considering, right understanding or wrong understanding or whatever. In order that the wrong understanding has to be completely eradicated. Otherwise, it's not absolutely and completely eradicated. not just from one or two objects, but to whatever is there in life in a day, as natural by conditions. And this is the way to let go the idea of self and the clinging to the self, little by little, by understanding the truth. And when it's not direct understanding with the direct awareness yet, right understanding knows that it's different.
Thank you, Ajahn, for your words, for these words of truth. They are refreshing and encouraging. Thank you.
My pleasure. I appreciate it too so much. When there is understanding from hearing and considering, literally, nothing is more precious than moment of understanding the truth.
Yes, Ajahn.
And from day to day, there can be a little more of understanding the truth of anatta, no wonder, little by little. And there are many conditions to understand the truth. That's why not just only the satipatthana, but there are other factors too. For example, some people would like to talk about this and that to have clear vision from the words explaining, but not direct awareness and understanding of that which is now appearing. No one can force, no one can control, no one can make it rise. But there are conditions like chanda, see, the interest to understand directly what is there. For those who do not have moment of direct awareness, because of there's not chanda to understand directly yet. So they have chanda to understand the words, like many words taught by the Buddha. What does it mean, so on. But it can be conditioned for direct awareness and understanding without expectation, because expectation is lopa, clinging to the result, and try very hard to have understanding. But at moment of chanda, which is the factor of enlightenment, it's different from chanda when there's no understanding. That's why even its chanda is different. And they are there in daily life from moment to moment. And we're talking about what is there in a moment so that there can be a moment of understanding what is there directly later. When time comes, when it's right conditions for that to arise. As long as there is moment of understanding, it can develop. Otherwise, it cannot develop to understand better at all. When there's no clear understanding intellectually about what is there now. And this is the understanding of the path, the right path. There must be conditions from whatever arises now.
Does anyone else have any questions before we finish, or any topics they want to bring up? I just bring up one point then, Ajahn. You've mentioned quite often that because the Bhavanga-chittas throughout life are the same as the Patisandhi-chitta, all conditioned by the same karma, it will be this person until death, no change at all. But as we know, in truth, there is no person, but just different tendencies. But we also talk about the different accumulations of lobha, different accumulations of understanding, and so on. So not just the Bhavanga-chittas, but of course the karma that conditioned the patisandhi and the karmas that are collected during that life will also determine whether it's possible for panya to develop or what accumulations will arise. So many different conditions in place. But would you just say a little bit more about what you mean by this person throughout life because of the Bhavanga-chittas all being the same, conditioned by karma?
It's what would be Natsara tomorrow, or still Sarah tomorrow. Someone different, or the same kind of birth. The stream of experience is the object, even not through the 6 doorways, so that any doorway experience just interrupt very shortly, so short, and then there is Bhavanga, and then other doorway again, and then Bhavanga again, not different Bhavanga. So that is the idea of I from birth up to now. And where's Sarah tomorrow? Different Bhavanga or what? And what is there accumulated? How can it go away? Out of Chitta, different being. As the Bhavanga has to be the Chitta, the Vipaka of the same karma as the Patisandhi Chitta, it cannot be changed until death. The next birth consciousness is different from the one in this life, Patisandhi Chitta, Bhavanga Chitta, and Chutti Chitta. That's why we have the idea who was born and who dies. But the truth is that even one chitta does not last at all. It's gone so rapidly. Otherwise, there must be only one moment of Sara and the other moment of different one and different one and different one. Dhamma does not produce or condition just one moment of life or chitta as vipaka, but many moments, like at moment of birth and on, sharing the same object, experience the same object, and the same accumulation, little by little, adding more and more and more. That's why Sarah at young, what about the feeling, the accumulation? For some child, they are so kind when they are young, but when they grow up, but when he grows up, different accumulation. conditioned by that which has been accumulated, and the next or the object from moment to moment condition such different kind of kusala and akusala, and then the same bhavanka, not changed yet until death. So
It's actually just,
word,
it's really
well,
just referring to the same stream of bhavankas, because what we usually think of as the personality or this or that is actually the wrong understanding of someone, because there are just different accumulations changing all the time. But the bhavankas are, each one is the same. So, as you say, just interrupted by these different processes throughout life.
What a fascinating question. The thought came that on looking into a mirror, seeing what is there, I take for self Sanya Marx and Nimitta, so living so much in the world of concepts.
And thinking of this person or that person in the mirror of me and my personality, but this is just the fantasy, not the understanding of what is meant by this personality during life, which is just referring to the Bhavanga Citas. When looking in the mirror, always so quickly the idea of me. Okay, thank you very much, Ajahn. Thank you, everyone. Swadika. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.